I thought I knew everything about power, how to use it, how to bend people with it, how to make sure nothing in my world ever slipped out of my control. But the day she walked away from me, everything I believed shattered. I had put a price on her love, certain she would bend just like everyone else had. Instead, she turned her back and left without hesitation. That single moment, her silence, her steady steps, her refusal to turn around broke something in me I didn't even know existed. And for the first time in my life, I truly fell apart. Before we dive into this emotional journey of pride, heartbreak, and redemption, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Stories like this one are crafted to inspire, move, and maybe even change you a little. Don't miss any of them. Your support keeps these stories alive. My name is Adrian Cole, and for 34 years I believed wealth made me untouchable. I inherited an empire, expanded it, and buried myself inside the luxurious life it provided. But along the way, I stopped seeing people as humans. I treated emotions like inconveniences, relationships like business transactions, and affection like a commodity I could purchase. I never realized how far I had drifted from my own humanity. Every interaction felt rehearsed, polished, hollow. I lived in penthouses, flew in private jets, and slept on silk sheets, but deep inside, an emptiness I refused to acknowledge consumed me. Everything began to change on a quiet Wednesday morning I thought would be just like any other. My world ran on schedules, polished marble floors, silent halls, and people who avoided eye contact unless I requested it. But that day, something new entered my perfectly controlled environment. Her name was Alina Hart, and she was hired as my new executive house manager. I didn't choose her, my staff handled those things. Usually, new employees trembled around me, eager to impress or terrified to disappoint. But when she walked into my penthouse, clipboard in hand, eyes clear and focused, something unfamiliar stirred. Inside me, she wasn't intimidated. She wasn't impressed. She wasn't even curious about who I was. She simply said, "Good morning, Mr. Cole. I'm here to work. Please let me know your expectations." No stutter, no hesitation, just calm professionalism. It bothered me, not because she was rude, but because she treated me like a normal person. No one had done that in years. People bowed to my wealth, my presence, my name. Alina didn't. She was focused on the tasks, not the luxury that surrounded her. She inspected the penthouse with precise, quiet efficiency, making notes, adjusting schedules, asking my staff questions I hadn't even realized needed answers. I found myself watching her from a distance, irritated at first by how little she cared about me. I wasn't used to being ignored. It felt wrong, different, intriguing. When she spoke to others, her voice softened. When she worked, her hands moved with confidence. When she smiled, rarely. But genuinely, it was like a quiet sunrise in a place that had forgotten what warmth felt like. During her first week, I tested her. I accidentally left my watch, a limited edition worth more than her annual salary, on the counter to see if she'd react. She didn't. She simply polished it, placed it back in its case, and continued her work as if the price tag meant nothing. The next day, I complimented her performance, expecting her to beam the way most employees did when I acknowledged them. Instead, she nodded politely and said, "Thank you, Mr. Cole. If there's anything else you'd like improved, feel free to tell me." No flattery, no subtle attempts to get closer, no interest in my wealth. This irritated me. Even more, people always wanted something from me. A favor, a raise, an opportunity, a connection. But Alina wanted nothing. Not even conversation unless it related to work. I started paying attention without meaning to. I noticed she brought lunch in a simple container, neatly packed. I noticed she liked classical music, never the dramatic pieces, always the soft ones. I noticed she treated every employee with kindness, no matter their role, and the more I noticed, the more something inside me shifted, like an old machine forced to wake after years of neglect. One afternoon, I tried to offer her a gift, a designer pen worth thousands. She looked at it, then at me, and said gently, "I appreciate the gesture, sir, but I prefer not to accept expensive gifts. It blurs professional boundaries." Professional boundaries. No one had ever said those words to me that night. I found myself staring at the city skyline, wondering why her refusal bothered me so deeply. I should have been offended, but instead, I felt seen. And that scared me more than anything else. I didn't know it yet, but that moment was the true beginning, the spark that would grow into a storm neither of us could have predicted. Over the next several weeks, Alina became the quiet disruption I couldn't escape. She moved through my world with purpose, not hesitation. She coordinated schedules, trained staff, reorganized systems I didn't know were broken, and somehow brought a strange sense of peace into the penthouse. But what unsettled me most was that she still didn't see me the way everyone else did. I was used to manipulating people with ease. A promotion here, a luxury gift there, a gentle offer wrapped in gold. People bent. People obeyed. People wanted something from me. But Alina resisted every tactic, and I hated the way it fascinated me. I found myself observing her small routines. How she tucked her hair behind her ear when she concentrated. How she double-checked everything twice. Not out of fear, but integrity. How she treated every task, no matter how simple, with sincerity. One evening, I entered the kitchen earlier than usual and found her heating her dinner, rice and vegetables, simple, humble, nothing like the gourmet meals I had delivered. I stood there, expecting her to rush, apologize, move aside. Instead, she looked up and said respectfully, "I'll be done in a minute. Mr. Cole, I hope the smell isn't bothering you." It wasn't the smell that bothered me. It was her calmness. "You can use the main dining area," I offered. "It's more comfortable." She shook her head lightly. "I'm fine here. I don't want to disrupt your space." Your space. I realized she'd built invisible walls around her, self-quiet boundaries that kept my world from swallowing her, and it made me want to break through them. I tried being kinder, more present. I greeted her in the mornings. I asked how her day was going. She always responded politely but briefly, maintaining her distance with a gentle firmness I couldn't decipher, so I escalated. I arranged for her to receive a bonus. She declined it. I approved a raise without asking her. She thanked me, but said she didn't work for money alone. I brought her a gift, something elegant, understated, thoughtful. She handed it back and said, "I prefer not accepting personal gifts, sir." Each refusal struck deeper than the last. I wasn't used to being rejected, but I also wasn't used to caring. It built a tension inside me, an unfamiliar mix of admiration and frustration. I couldn't read her. I couldn't control her, And somehow, that made me want to understand her more. One afternoon, I overheard her comforting one of the younger staff members who'd been crying over a family issue. Alina didn't judge, didn't rush. She simply listened. Truly listened. I stood in the doorway, unseen, feeling something heavy twist in my chest. I had never listened like that to anyone, not even myself. When she left the room, I stepped out and said, "You're good with people." She looked surprised by the comment. I try to treat everyone the way I'd want to be treated. I swallowed. And how is that? With respect, patience, compassion. I opened my mouth to reply, but the words didn't come. Because deep inside, I knew I didn't treat people that way. She walked past me. Her presence so soft and steady, it left a trail of discomfort behind her. Discomfort born from truth. The turning point came weeks later. I invited her to dinner not as a date, but as a thank you for the improvements she'd made to my home. She politely declined, saying she preferred to keep things strictly professional. I tried again. She declined again. That night, I paced my office like a storm caged behind glass. Why was she resisting me? Why did her boundaries feel like walls I needed to climb? Why did her silence, her simple, dignified silence, affect me more than anyone's words ever had? The truth cracked open inside me. I wanted her, but not in the way I usually wanted people. I wanted her respect, her trust, her approval, her presence, not because of who I was, but because of who she was. And for a man who had always controlled everything, that feeling was terrifying. Still, I pushed harder to hard because desire mixed with pride is a dangerous thing. I convinced myself that if I could just get her to accept something from me, anything, the tension would break. I didn't realize then that I wasn't just chasing her attention. I was chasing the part of myself I'd lost long ago. And the closer I got to her, the closer I came to the breaking point that would shatter everything.
The breaking point happened on a night I should have remembered for triumph, not humiliation. I had just closed one of the biggest deals of my career, a merger that would elevate my empire to a level even I hadn't dreamed possible. The celebration filled my penthouse with powerful people, investors, CEOs, board members, and the kind of old money families who valued wealth more than morality. Champagne flowed like water. Laughter bounced off the glass walls. Every guest either wanted something from me or praised me for my brilliance. I should have felt invincible, but instead, I felt hollow. That's when I saw her. Alina was finishing her shift, quietly instructing staff on post-event cleanup. She wore her simple uniform, her hair tied neatly, her expression focused. In a room full of extravagance, she looked like the only real thing there. And in my drunken, pride-fueled state, that truth felt like a challenge. I approached her, glass in hand, confidence dripping from my every step. The crowd noticed, conversations dimming. People always watched me, they were trained at, and tonight, I wanted them to see something, that even Alina, the woman who refused gifts and boundaries and raises, would eventually bend, leaving so soon. I asked, my voice louder than I intended. She turned, surprised by how close I'd gotten. "My shift is over, Mr. Cole. You should stay." I grinned. "Celebrate with us." She shook her head softly. "Thank you, but I don't drink, and this isn't my place." Her calmness was a blade on my pride. I stepped closer, too close. "Everything here is my place, and if I want you to celebrate, you celebrate." Her eyes narrowed in discomfort. "Sir, I think you've had too much to drink." The room grew quieter. People sensed the tension. Some smirked, waiting for the show. Others stepped back, eager to see how far I would go. Anger rose like heat in my chest, not because she was wrong, but because she was right. I leaned in, my voice thick with arrogance I couldn't restrain. "Come on, Alina, you work for me. The least you can do is—" I paused, the alcohol warping my judgment. "Kiss me." She froze. The room froze, but I didn't stop. "Kiss me," I repeated, louder this time, driven by foolish confidence and wounded ego. "It's not a big deal. I could give you anything you want. Name a number, I'll double it." Her face changed. Not anger, not fear, but something far worse, disappointment. "Mr. Cole," she said quietly, "please step back." I laughed, tipsy and reckless. "Why? You think you're too good for me? Everyone has a price, Alina, even you." Those words were the match, and everything exploded. She took a step forward, not away. Forward, with her head high, eyes steady, heart unshaken. "I feel sorry for you," she said softly. The room didn't just go silent, it dropped into a vacuum. No music, no murmurs, no footsteps, just her words echoing in my skull. Cracking me open from the inside, she continued. Voice trembling but unwavering. "You hide behind money because it's the only thing you think makes you worth something. But it doesn't. Not to me. Not to anyone who truly sees you." My throat tightened. "You don't know me." "I know enough," she replied. "I know you don't understand respect, or boundaries, or love. I know you use wealth to replace everything you're afraid to feel." My hand tightened around the champagne glass until it shook. "And I know," she added, her voice breaking, "that somewhere inside, you're hurting. But hurting people doesn't heal you. It just makes you lonelier." A murmur rippled through the crowd. But Alina wasn't done. "Tonight, you didn't embarrass me," she said. "You embarrassed yourself. And I hope, for your sake, you understand what that means." A single tear escaped her eye, not for her, but for me. Then she did the one thing I wasn't prepared for. She turned and walked away, not rushed, not trembling, not offended, just done with me. With my arrogance, with my belief that everything had a price, I reached out instinctively, not to grab her, but as if trying to hold on to the only real piece of my life that was slipping through my fingers. But she didn't look back, not once. The glass in my hand slipped and shattered on the marble floor. Someone laughed. Someone gasped. Someone whispered he lost control. And for the first time in my life, they were right. I stood there, exposed under the harsh lights of my own penthouse, surrounded by people who pretended to respect me but secretly enjoyed watching me fall. I felt my chest tighten painfully. My vision blurred not from alcohol, but from something far heavier: shame, humiliation, regret. I stumbled toward my office, ignoring everyone. People moved aside, whispering, staring, judging. My head pounded with every step. My chest felt like it was collapsing by the time I shut the office door behind me. The weight of what I had done slammed into me. I sank to the floor. The silence was suffocating. I replayed every second, every word, every look in her eyes. She wasn't afraid of me. She wasn't impressed by me. But worst of all, she wasn't surprised by me. She expected better. And I failed her. I failed myself. My hands shook uncontrollably as I buried my face in them. For the first time since childhood, I cried dry. Painful sobs that ripped through the walls I'd built over decades. She was right. I whispered into the darkness. The empire outside my office continued celebrating my business victory. But inside that room, I experienced the greatest defeat of my life, and it was the first one that truly mattered. After the guests left and the lights dimmed, I stayed locked inside my office, broken, drained, and stripped of every illusion I had built around myself. The city lights outside glittered like a reminder of the empire I controlled, yet I felt smaller than I ever had. Elena's words echoed relentlessly. "I feel sorry for you. You use wealth to replace everything you're afraid to feel. You embarrassed yourself." I leaned back against the cold wall, my breath shallow. I wanted to blame the alcohol, the stress, her refusal, but deep down, I knew the truth. I had been spiraling long before that night. She just exposed the fall. For the next few days, I didn't leave my penthouse. I canceled meetings, ignored calls, avoided people. I couldn't face my staff, especially not Alina. But the house felt emptier without her presence. Her absence was a shadow that followed me everywhere. I kept hearing her soft footsteps, her calm voice, her gentle firmness. I kept remembering her eyes, not angry, not bitter, but disappointed. That was the wound that hurt the most. The morning after the incident, I checked the staff schedule. Alina had requested temporary leave. A week, maybe more. It was approved instantly. I didn't blame her. If I were her, I would have left too. I might have resigned altogether. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of my actions, truly felt it. I walked through the penthouse slowly, noticing the things she had changed, the organized cabinets, the polished surfaces, the small touches of warmth she had added without ever drawing attention to them. The place didn't feel like a house anymore. It felt like a memory, and I had ruined it. On the third day, I forced myself to look in the mirror. What stared back wasn't the powerful billionaire everyone praised. It wasn't the confident negotiator or the charming speaker. It was a man who had lost control of himself. My eyes were red. My face was tense. My shoulders slumped with years of buried pain. How did I become this? I whispered. No answer came, just silence. I knew I had to change. Not for Alina, not for my reputation, but for myself, because I couldn't keep living like a man who bought instead of felt, commanded instead of connected, consumed instead of cared. So, I started small. I apologized to my staff, every single one. I didn't use excuses or explanations. I simply said, "I'm sorry for how I've treated you. I will do better." Some were shocked. Some emotional. Some didn't know how to respond. But it was a start. I spent hours reflecting, journaling, walking, sitting in quiet corners of my home I had never bothered to visit. I finally saw the emptiness I had been running from, the loneliness I had buried under wealth, the fear that had dictated my life, fear of being vulnerable, fear of not being enough without my money, fear of being truly seen. Alina had seen me anyway, and instead of judgment, she offered truth. Her words planted a seed, and I watered it with every moment of reflection, regret, and resolve by the end of the week. I knew what I needed to do, not to win her back, not to impress her, but to become someone she wouldn't have to feel sorry for. The next Monday, Alina returned to work. I felt my heartbeat hammering in my chest as I saw her walk through the doors, calm, as always, composed, purposeful. But something was different. She avoided my eyes. Her steps were lighter, freer, as if she had detached herself from anything related to me. I deserved that distance. "Alina, may we talk?" Her hands paused over her clipboard. She looked up, guarded. "Of course, Mr. Cole." She was professional, detached. The warmth she once had around me was gone. It hurt, but I accepted it. "I want to start by saying I'm sorry," I said quietly. "For what I did, for what I said, for everything." She remained still, expression unreadable. "I was drunk, but that's not an excuse. I disrespected you. I disrespected myself. You didn't deserve that." Alina nodded, slowly, not forgiving, but acknowledging. "I don't expect anything from you," I continued. "I don't expect your trust or your kindness. I just want you to know that I'm trying to be better, and I'm grateful that you told me the truth, even when it hurt." For the first time, she looked directly into my eyes, and I saw surprise flicker in hers. "You've changed," she said softly. "I'm trying to," I whispered. She studied me for a moment, then sighed. "I didn't want to hurt you. I meant everything I said, but I didn't expect you to actually listen." "I did," I replied, "because you were right." For the next weeks, I continued changing, not performatively, but genuinely. I started greeting the staff by name. I asked about their families. I helped when I could. I stopped flaunting wealth. I stopped using power as a shield. Slowly, the atmosphere in my home shifted. People smiled more, laughed more, talked to me like a person, not an authority. She noticed one afternoon she found me helping the kitchen staff unload groceries. She blinked in surprise. "You don't need to do that." "I know," I shrugged. "But I want to." She smiled, just a small one, but it was the first since that night. We began speaking more, first about work, then about small things, music, books, her family, my fears, her dreams, my regrets. Our conversations grew deeper, softer, easier. One day she asked, "Why did you really change?" I answered honestly, because I finally understood what kind of man I didn't want to be. She looked at me with something new in her gentle admiration. Months passed. Our bond grew quietly. Respect turned to trust, trust into affection. affection into something neither of us said aloud. Until the day I finally found the courage. I took her to the rooftop garden, a place she had always admired. The sky blushed with sunset, painting the world in soft colors. She stood beside me, unaware of what was coming. "Alina," I said softly, "you gave me something I didn't know I needed." She looked up at me. "You gave me truth. You gave me clarity. You helped me find the man I want to be." My voice trembled as I continued, "I'm not offering diamonds, or luxury, or anything that tries to buy your affection." I stepped closer. "I'm offering myself changed, growing, flawed, but trying." Her eyes glistened. "I love you," I whispered. "And if you don't feel the same, I'll accept it. But I needed you to know." She took a slow breath. Then, with tears in her eyes, she whispered, "I never wanted your money, Adrian. I just wanted the man you've become." And she stepped into my arms. Love isn't something you can buy, bargain for, or command. It isn't found in luxury, power, or wealth. It grows in honesty, humility, and change. Adrian learned that the hard way, but his greatest victory wasn't a business deal. It was rediscovering his humanity. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that everyone deserves a chance to grow, or if it made you believe in a little in real love, then make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps bring more powerful stories like this to life. Thank you for watching. And remember, true love doesn't need a price. It needs courage, compassion, and the willingness to become better every day.